All right, welcome back. Now, as we told you, President Buhari did touch on the economy. He spoke a lot on the economy. And one issue the president spoke extensively on is the issue of the forex restrictions imposed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, restricting, of course, people from using their ATM cards abroad, and several restrictions, of course. Restriction, for instance, that barred about 41 items from access to the forex market. Let's take a listen now to what President Buhari had to say about the forex restrictions.
Foreign exchange restriction. It was supposed to strengthen the naira. But now, legitimate people who are doing business and they need the foreign exchange to go do business, people who are sick, Mr. President, people who have children in schools and they need to take money or get foreign exchange and go for treatment. People are dying. Business people are suffering. Are you aware of this? And when will this policy, the restriction be, at least lifted so that people could live their normal lives? Not all Nigerians are corrupt.
I'm sorry to cut in. It cannot be lifted because the money is not there. The money is not there. We have to do what is virtually online of Nigeria's life, the industries that have to keep people employed and go and produce the goods we badly need or we must need, and then do the infrastructure. Let's get the power. And it will be amazing how much people can save if the power works. And then secondly, the roads. But the most important thing, which we identified, even during the campaign, we identified 3 things. One, security. You just cannot manage the country if you don't secure it. This stealing of Nigerian crude, this abduction across the country, abduct people, ask for millions. Some are killed, some are not released. And then the Boko Haram itself. Now this IED that is causing casualties in hundreds by the week. You have to see how do you arrange or rearrange your priorities in question of securing the country, giving employment, and getting the economy to start moving. Because unless people develop confidence in this country, we'll be expecting too much if we will ask them to come and invest. If they cannot come and manage what they invest in, because they will be abducted or they will be shot. It's a very, very nasty situation we are in, but we cannot fold our arms and be complaining by the day. We have to do something about it, and we are doing our best. And we hope we'll have some luck in terms of getting more revenue, at least around the country.
The banks now saying you cannot do any transactions with your card abroad. And it's a lot of pains for a lot of people, like students who are studying abroad, their parents paying in money. You can't use the cards abroad. Someone who has gone on some health issues.
To make a statement on that. What we understand, you know what happened in this country. There are a lot of people that want to take money out, and they use those cards. They even go to rural areas, get innocent people involved with a lot of cards, and they go out of the country and transfer money with it.
A related issue.
We have to get. I think some of the hard truths has to be told for people to understand.
Well, joining me now to discuss the issue further is Mr. Muda Yusuf, who is the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us on the program. You listened to the president. You listened to the president during the presidential media chat on the issue of forex restrictions. Of course, the president coming out clearly to say that the restrictions will not be lifted, at least not until the country's finances improves in terms of receipts from oil. What's your take on it?
Well, it is a policy that we have expressed very serious reservation about. And listening to the president, it is clear to me that the president does not have sufficient or adequate appreciation of the consequences and impact of that policy on business and on the economy. The policy has had a very damaging effect on investors' confidence. It has affected a lot of foreign investors. It has distorted planning of many investors. It has created a major crisis of liquidity in the foreign exchange market, and it's affecting the country risk of Nigeria and the perception of Nigeria as a country to do business with. Many investors have lost their credit lines on account of their inability to service their obligations outside the country. Many of them could not pay their suppliers. Many of them could not service their debts, not because they don't have the funds, but because the foreign exchange was not there. So the liquidity crisis that has been created in the foreign exchange market is the biggest problem. And unfortunately, from the way the president has spoken, I'm not sure that the feedback from the players in this economy to the president has been quite sufficient, enough for him to appreciate the enormity of the problem that businesses are facing. So there is a need to further engage with this government, and even going further, we need to engage with the APC as a government, because this has a lot of economic costs, and it could also have a lot of political costs because of the adverse consequences it has for the economy. We cannot operate an economy in isolation of the global economy. We cannot operate an economy in a situation where you cannot do business freely with other parts of the world. The CBN has a mandate. The mandate is to ensure stability of financial markets, to ensure efficiency of financial markets and financial operations and financial stability. But the bulk of what the CBN has done is more in the area of fiscal policy. These are decisions which ought normally to have been taken either by the Finance Ministry or the Ministry of Budget and Planning or Trade and Investment. These are the ministries that ought to have come together to take some of these fiscal policy decisions. But somehow, the CBN has combined both monetary and fiscal policy all rolled into one. I don't think this will all go well for this economy, and we are urging that the president should urgently review this situation. It is also my belief that the president and this government needs a strong body of economic advisors, because the quality of economic policies leaves much to be desired. And I think we cannot afford to continue this way. So I will urge that there is a need for immediate review of this policy so that this economy can move on. We cannot operate an economy where there is no liquidity in the foreign exchange market. No economy can operate that way.
Okay, but let me ask you, what exactly would you expect the government to do in place of these restrictions? What would you be expecting, for instance, the CBN to do? What kind of policy would you want to see? Because basically what you're trying to say is that the government should devalue, and the government has made it clear that it has no intention at all to devalue, and that devaluation would definitely have a huge negative impact on its budget and its plans. We heard the president say that.
You see, this is something that normally should be based on pure economic principles. And most of these economic principles are tested principles. They are principles that are based on tested theories. Now, what has happened is that we have a challenge of supply in the foreign exchange market. That is understandable because there is a sharp drop in oil price. Therefore, the capacity to fund the foreign exchange market has been adversely affected. What the CBN has done was to now fix the exchange rates without taking into account the fundamentals of the market. In ordinary economics, once your supply drops, your price will go up if your demand is constant. But if you maintain a price that you don't have the supply capacity to meet, then you create an unnecessary pressure on the system. You escalate the demand pressure on the market, and you also discourage supply. So what we have is a kind of double jeopardy. The policy that the CBN has maintained, that is fixing the exchange rate, has created unnecessary demand pressure on the market. And that has led to all sorts of problems, speculation, people round tripping, all sorts of transparency issues. Because what is being sold now is a subsidized foreign exchange. It has been fixed below equilibrium. That is the crux of the matter.
One other issue I want you to talk about is the issue of subsidy. We had the president speak on that issue as well, saying by the first quarter of next year, we would not have subsidy anymore. And of course, as you're aware, the government has already announced that it is no longer providing subsidy, even from the end of 2015. And what's your take on the decision or the action now of this government? And of course, what the president said about the removal of subsidy?
You see, on the issue of subsidy, it is something that is long overdue. But unfortunately, even from the administration, we are getting conflicting signals. What the Minister of State for Petroleum, Mr. Ike Kachuku, is saying sometimes is not in alignment with what the president says. So that in itself is even confusing investors. But having said that, we don't really have an option than to exit from all this subsidy problem. The subsidy issue has created more problems for the economy. It has created more problems for the citizens. It has even created more problems even for the common man that the NLC often claim to be protecting. People are sleeping on queues. People cannot get fuel. Many people are buying black market, sometimes as high as 200 naira per liter, 250 naira per liter. I mean, whose interest is being served by that kind of arrangement? And we have been on this for the past couple of years. And on top of that, the biggest pressure on our foreign exchange market today is the importation of petroleum products. One of the biggest pressure on our treasury today is also the financing of subsidy. Annually, we spend close to $1 trillion. There was a time at the peak of all this crisis, we were spending close to 2 trillion naira on subsidy. In an economy where salaries are not being paid, in an economy where pensioners are not being paid, in an economy where major institutions of government are not being funded, in an economy that has no infrastructure. And we keep spending this kind of money on subsidy. I think it's scandalous. And anybody that wishes this economy well should not support that this kind of arrangement should continue. And beyond that, it's one of the biggest platforms for corruption. It's preventing investors from coming into the sector. So it's a major area that we need to reform. And I will advise that the government should make up its mind exactly and let the private sector take over this place so that the government can face more important governmental functions. It's not a major function of government to be running refineries or to be importing fuel or to be distributing fuel. That's not a major function of government. The major function of government is to fix security, to provide infrastructure for citizens, to provide schools for the poor, to provide hospitals for the poor. These are the basic functions of government, not managing refineries. These are things that the private sector can do and do very well, much better than government. So for better governance purposes, I think the government should exit completely from the issue of managing refineries, importing fuel, retailing fuel, and just allow the private sector to do that. And if there is any time that this is good, this is the best time to do it.
All right, Mr. Muda Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thank you very much for your contributions. Well, thank you very much. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be talking one-on-one with Nigeria's Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed. But just as we go on break, let's leave you with the soundbite of what President Buhari had to say about subsidy and why it has to go.
When I was in government, we had the 4 refineries working with a capacity of 450,000 barrels a day. The 400,000 barrels are Nigerian crude. We don't import anything, it's all Nigerian crude. And we were exporting average 100,000 barrels a day of refined product after satisfying home market. Now, as we are talking with you, none of these refineries is efficiently working. None. Again, we built more than 20 depots. We laid more than 3,500 line pipes. We have more than 6 pumping stations. We pump from Zaria to Gusau, from Zaria to Maiduguri, to Kano. All that infrastructure has been destroyed. Why? Why can't they even maintain what they inherited?
So does that mean the subsidy regime, I mean, this payment of over $1 trillion in air, will it continue, or are we going to see new refineries, whether by private sector or government or PPP?
The subsidy, but at the end of next quarter, we will not be talking of subsidy. Because how much is the petroleum costing now?
They said it will be 15 naira less from 2 days from now. 50 kobo less, sorry.
50 kobo. So
less.
really, you are not subsidizing anybody. It's so low, the cost of petrol is so low that you don't have to subsidize it.
Your Excellency,
it's fine, it's all level.
We're going through lean times with regards money coming in from petrol, but if that changes, does it mean we go back to subsidizing, or are we taking it away?
By that time, I am hoping our refineries will be functioning. Our first priority now, we can't do it overnight, is to get our refineries working. What is dedicated, 445,000 barrels per day, can be refined at home. And that will be at least 60% of our requirement. Then for the 40%, then we can do the swap.
But how long will that continue, sir? I'm talking of new refineries. I mean, even previous governments gave licenses, they never started. There is one in Lagos, they are talking of maybe in the next 2-3 years.
What is the previous government? I have just told you that they failed to maintain 4 refineries. They failed to maintain 3,000, about 500 line pipes. They failed to maintain the pumping stations. With the cost of petroleum barrel over 100 naira, and over $100 per barrel, they failed to do it. Now it's costing about $30, $70. You are asking us, when are we going to do it?
Every hour and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ, if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.